The year is 1855, and we're about to meet a young family that's risking absolutely everything, all for a rumor on the other side of the world. This is the incredible story of the Schaffner family and their huge gamble for a new life out on the golden shores of California.
You know, this quote really gets to the heart of the whole thing. This was the fire in the belly of Frederick Schaffner, the 26-year-old father of this family. We're not just talking about a business decision here. This was, well, it was existential for him. He felt that if he stayed put, it would be a kind of slow death. In California, no matter how much of a long shot it was the only way he felt he could truly live.
Okay, so let's set the scene. I want you to picture their little apartment on Orchard Street in New York City. The air is just thick with all the smells of the city, right? You've got fish, horse manure, fresh bread baking somewhere. The decision has been made, trunks are getting packed, and you can just feel the weight of this huge departure hanging in the air. And the family dynamic here it's just fascinating. So you've got Frederick, he's the dreamer, right? He's totally fueled by this restless energy. Then you have his wife, Martha Matilda. She's the pragmatist, the one who is quiet and just gets things done. And then there's their 4-year-old son, Herman, who's like this little observer, just soaking in every single detail of this crazy new adventure.
And you have to understand, this was not a popular decision. Their neighbors, their whole community, they pretty much thought they were crazy. I mean, Frederick had a good job, a steady situation. To everyone else, throwing that all away to chase what they saw as just some leftover gold rush rumors, it was absolute foolishness. But how could Frederick explain it? How do you tell people that staying put feels like you're slowly dying?
So let's talk about the actual price of this dream, because this wasn't just some emotional risk. No, this was a huge, massive financial gamble that put literally everything they had on the line.
$120. Now, that was a price of passage for 2 adults and a half-price ticket for little Herman. I know, to us today, that might not sound like a lot, but back in 1855, that was an absolute fortune. And get this, that $120 fare, that represented almost everything they had managed to save from 2 full years of Frederick's hard work as a cook. They were betting their entire financial future on this one trip. And wow, what a journey it was going to be. As you can see, this was no simple cruise. It was this grueling 3-stage odyssey. First, a steamship down to Aspinwall, Panama. Then, a risky railroad trip across the isthmus. And then, another steamship all the way up to San Francisco. I mean, talk about a test of endurance. And the whole thing, the entire plan, this massive gamble, it was all fueled by a single newspaper ad. Frederick had apparently memorized it, like it was scripture. He knew the sailing dates, the fares, the agents' names, all by heart. To him, this ad wasn't just information. It was a promise. It was the roadmap to their salvation. But of course, the dream very quickly collided with a pretty harsh reality. They get on board the SS Illinois, which is this huge, impressive ship, but their new home was anything but grand. They made their way down the stairs, down, 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 into steerage. And this is what their entire life savings bought them. A dark, cramped space, literally below the waterline. The ceilings are so low you can barely stand up. The air is thick with the heat and the smell of 200 bodies packed in like sardines. And their beds? They're just wooden shelves, stacked too high. This was the stark claustrophobic reality of their great adventure. And in the face of all that, what does Martha Matilda say? Just 2 words. It's fine. And it's not like she's trying to reassure anyone. It's just a simple statement of fact. That one line tells you everything you need to know about her strength. She's the anchor for this family, you know, the one who's grounded in the very reality her husband is trying so desperately to escape. And right away, you see this incredible contrast. On one hand, you have Frederick. He's crossed the Atlantic before, so he knows exactly what kind of misery is coming. He feels that dread in his stomach. But then there's little Herman. What does a 4-year-old do? He immediately discovers a porthole the size of a dinner plate and is just completely lost in wonder, his face pressed right up against the glass. And this leads to this wonderful little moment between father and son, a perfect little break in all the tension. Frederick asks him, "What kind of bird do you see?" And Herman delivers this just brilliant, very serious scientific conclusion that only a 4-year-old could come up with, a wet one. It's just this great little reminder of the innocence they're bringing along on this brutal journey. All right, so the journey is underway.
and with it comes a pretty brutal initiation. The first part is gentle enough, but then the Atlantic turns rough, and life down in steerage finds this new, miserable rhythm that's all about survival and, well, seasickness.
And what's really interesting is seeing how the sea affects each of them so differently. Little Herman, unbelievably, is totally fine, not sick at all. Martha is sick for about 2 days, but of course, she never complains. And Frederick, the dreamer, the one who dragged them all here, he barely manages to hang on.
But then, something changes. As they sail further south, the grim, gray Atlantic starts to give way to something almost magical. The sea turns this vibrant, saturated blue that looks like it's been painted. The air gets warm and thick. The whole environment just shifts, and you can feel the mood shifting right along with it. The worst part, at least for now, seems to be over.
And you know what happens when people go through something tough together? A community starts to form. A woman named Frau Bauer kind of steps up and organizes this little microeconomy down in steerage. People start trading whatever they have, a piece of sausage for some hard cheese, mending a shirt in exchange for something else. And Martha, with her perfect, neat stitches, she becomes a really valuable member of this new little floating society. It's just an amazing testament to human resilience, isn't it?
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. We're moving into a more reflective part of the voyage now, where the raw physical hardship starts to ease up and make room for these little moments of thought and connection and even a renewed sense of hope. So they're up on deck, and Herman is watching these flying fish leap out of the water. He reports they fly. And then he says, "I would fly if I could." And wow, that simple phrase from a little kid just perfectly captures the entire spirit of their journey, doesn't it? That deep, human desire to move forward, to get somewhere better, to fly. And then we get another one of these quiet but really pivotal moments. Another passenger asks Martha about her husband, and she gives this simple but incredibly profound explanation of who he is. She says, "He's not a man who sits still." She just completely gets his restlessness. It's not a complaint at all. It's just a fact. And in its own quiet way, it's also a statement of her faith in him. And you see the impact of those words almost immediately. Frederick is nearby, pretending he's not listening, just mending his boot, but he hears her. And hearing her put the very core of his being into words like that, it gives him this warm, solid feeling in his chest, like a glowing coal. It's this quiet, powerful source of strength. It's the fuel he needs to see this crazy gamble all the way through. So that's where we'll leave them for now, sailing south. A family held together by a dreamer's restless ambition and a pragmatist's unshakable faith. Her words just affirmed his entire reason for being, and it leaves us with this big, lingering question. We know he's not a man who sits still. He's risked everything to get to this new world. So what exactly is he going to build when he finally gets to that golden shore?